But it's time now for you guys to put on your hypothetical NFL/Commanders GM hats. We're going to go through a proposed trade. See if you guys are yay or nay on this for the Commanders.
A hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical, yeah.
Proposed trade.
The same player involved for the last 3 months that we've been discussing.
It very well could be.
Who apparently is dug in. That's the quote.
He's not happy with the Cincinnati Bengals, and that is Trey Hendrickson, the stud pass rusher who had 17 and a half sacks last season. He's a stud. You'd love to have him on your team, and he's currently disgruntled with his situation in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
So Seth Walder, who does analytics for ESPN, proposed a hypothetical trade where the Commanders would acquire Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. The Bengals would get second-year commander Johnny Newton, defensive tackle.
Ooh.
They would get a 2026 third-rounder.
All right.
And a 2027 seventh-round pick. Okay,
That's
a couple years off.
All right, I mean, obviously, I would do that. I hate to lose.
And the Commanders would in return get Trey Hendrickson.
The way I look at it, you're essentially trading Johnny Newton for Hendrickson.
Right.
I mean, a third-round pick, that could be significant, but it's still a third-rounder.
Yeah, the seventh-rounder,
I mean, it's Joe. You're essentially, it's player for player.
I mean, I think you would do it like...
Yeah, I got to do it. Like when you said third and seventh, and listen, I don't want to lose Johnny Newton.
I don't either, and it leaves you.
It
leaves you pretty thin at defensive tackle with the departure of Jonathan Allen. Now you signed Kinlaw, but like
they can find other guys.
It's a pretty high draft pick that you're just getting rid of after one.
And they're
season.
high on him.
Apparently so.
They're very high on him.
You know, you're bringing in a better player. You're bringing in a stud that can help you right away.
A guy at a more impactful position, for the most part, than defensive tackle. Like a premier defensive end.
Explain why they say this actually makes sense, though. They say why this deal makes sense for both sides. Washington is in a win-now mode, which is wild when you've got such a new regime, but you are in a win-now mode with Jaden, right? But Dorrance Armstrong is their best rusher. Adding Hendrickson, who recorded the second best pass rush win rate at edge last season, would be a huge boost. Losing Newton would make an old defense older, but the Commanders have strong veteran options in Deron Payne, Kinlaw, Dietrich Wise Jr. By including Newton in the deal, the Commanders could put together a feasible package without a second-round pick. I just don't think that's enough compensation for Cincinnati.
I just saw a different trade proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was also on ESPN, Ben Solak. And I guess there were proposals for several teams, and they were kind of playing a game like, hey, here are proposals. You be the GM of the Lions. And the Bengals reporter from ESPN chose the Lions deal, which was a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick.
Right. I just don't think that's enough. I mean, God bless whoever wrote that. I just don't think Johnny Newton, a third and a seventh, is going to get you Trey Hendrickson. I just don't think it's enough.
I don't think so.
I don't think that would get it either. I think that
unless they get desperate, like if in mid-August, and you're a couple preseason games deep, and it seems like he's absolutely dug in and he's not going to show up, then they might just buckle.
It would seem to
me,
me,
I don't know if it's going to happen now.
Would the Bengals be more interested in getting a player for him, or would they be more interested in getting those picks? Because if Detroit was going to offer the higher picks, I think they'd probably go with that over a player and lower picks.
Like Johnny Newton, he's probably making a relatively modest salary for the next 3 or 4 years. His rookie deal is not onerous.
No, I get it. But if you can get a second and a third pick for Hendrickson over a player and a third and a seventh, I would think that they would do that.
Imagine a healthy Hutchinson and Hendrickson together.
Oh, yeah.
That would
be a nasty defensive line.
Nasty.
Yeah.
I think the Commanders will monitor it, but I don't know if they're desperate to do it. You know, there was an article yesterday, I can't remember if it was in the Washington Post, about the Commanders liking all their big boys now, that they've beefed up their defensive line with Kinlaw. And it seems like, to me, from the outside, it seems like it's a response to the Eagles' huge offensive line. Like they're like, how do we beat this team? And that's a good strategy that has this massive offensive line that has Saquon Barkley. We can't figure out how to stop him, so let's get some big boys. And Kinlaw's going to be part of it because they say, at least they speculate, that he's going to play that elephant end position.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put a big, massive dude out there as defensive end, you may not have Saquon Barkley in the playoffs ripping off his first carry for 70 yards or whatever it was.
You would hopefully be more effective, yeah. There's only so much you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be resolute in, hey, we don't need to go out and get the edge rusher. I'm sure they'd love it, but they're not desperate to do it because it's not like they finished dead last in sacks last year.
I know.
Quinn figured out a way to maybe resuscitate Dante Fowler Jr. or get the best out of him to get 8 sacks from Luvu. I mean, they weren't the best.
He wants to be top 10 or better.
But it wasn't as bad.
Weren't they top 10 last year?
I think they were like 12th or something. Didn't you say?
They were right on the edge of top 10.
It's kind of shocking.
They still want to get better, no doubt.
Yeah, they do, but it's kind of shocking because you just feel like we didn't get enough pass rush.
Right.
But when you actually look at the numbers,
just because
they somehow collectively
there wasn't
managed.
a lot of star power. It was just kind of piecemeal.
But that's okay. And I think that's why they didn't necessarily panic and go that route in the draft.
But if you got Hendrickson, I mean, listen to his numbers since he joined the Bengals in 21. He has 57 sacks, that's third in the league, 299 pressures, fifth, 17.4% pressure rate, second, 92.2 pass rush grade according to PFF, fifth.
But here's the other part
you're
of
getting a superstar.
You are getting a superstar, but Myles Garrett just got a $40 million a year deal.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay that.
That's Josh Harris's problem. I couldn't care less.
And I always advocate for... you can outrun the cap. You got to do some shenanigans with the pencil.
Yeah.
But you would have to do some shenanigans.
Look, if you want top level production,
it's hard to outrun it when you're paying a guy $40 million a year.
Right.
And you just have to do some crazy, accounting.
Also, it's great to shoot for sacks. It's great. But the best defense in the league last year was the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, their leading sack guy had 8. Josh Sweat. Nolan Smith was their second leading sack guy with 6.5. And they had the best defense in the league. The Commanders' problem was they couldn't stop the run. It wasn't that they couldn't get after the quarterback. Now, maybe the numbers were skewed because every team would game plan against Washington. And they're like, well, we could pass against them, but we don't need to. Let's just run the football because the defensive stats were skewed that it looks like they have this great pass defense. And usually when you have a great pass defense, you have a good pass rush, you have a good secondary. And we know Washington doesn't necessarily have that. But I don't think their problem is they're a Trey Hendrickson away from being a really good defense. Trey Hendrickson was part of the Bengals defense. They stunk.
Yeah, but we have some better pieces maybe around them. And I do think that one way you can improve your pass rush is by getting better secondary help. I think they're going to be better in the secondary.
Yeah, I think there's any question so. About it. They upgraded the talent.
Yeah. All right, let's bang out some of these calls.
800-636-1067. Which side do you come down on in this hypothetical trade proposed by Seth Walder from ESPN yesterday?
We wait so long to enjoy summer and get out and be outside and the kids go to the pool and all that stuff. But you got to remember, man, once it gets to mid-June, in about 3 weeks, Jason's going to declare summer over, right?
4th of July.
4th of July.
Right after July 4th.
And next thing you know, these guys are going to be at freaking training camp. It happens.
End of July.
Fast.
Yep.
It happens super fast. All right, let's go to Chris in Culpeper. Chris, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Chris.
So I don't like the trade proposal at all, right? So you got to keep Johnny Newton on that rookie deal. You'll be able to do some things on the inside with him with Deron Payne, some stunts inside and everything. He's cheap. So my counter offer to that would be give him a 5th and a 7th over the next couple of years and give him Brian Robinson. He got a 700 or 800 yards. I mean, Jaden Daniels was going to do that himself, So
well, who's going to carry who's going to get the bulk of the carries?
First of all, Brian Robinson has no trade value. I don't know what team is going to look at that proposal and say, yeah, we got to have B.
You're not going to trade Brian Robinson for Trey Hendrickson. Literally in no fantasy league.
I'm trying to get Trey Hendrickson for the cheapest I can.
Yeah,
no, that's not going to happen, buddy.
They're going to laugh at you.
Come on, guy.
They're going to laugh at you. I love you, but they're going to laugh at you. All right. Thank you, pal.
Well, I'm not giving up Johnny Newton.
You don't want to give up Johnny.
All right,
That's where you draw the line.
He's willing to give up B-Rob.
I think Johnny Newton's pretty good, but I think I would sacrifice his future.
I mean, the Bengals have Chase Brown last time I checked, and they just drafted Taj Brooks. So I think they're okay at running back.
Yeah, they're not going to trade stud defensive end for Brian Robinson.
Yeah. If they did, they'd be spectacularly stupid.
And he wanted to toss in a 5th rounder and a 7th
fifth
rounder.
and seventh. I mean, guys.
Do you understand how quickly any team would look at that offer and crumple it up and throw it in the trash?
Right.
Let's take 2 seconds.
It's like throwing in a few sugar packets for your coffee.
Don't waste your oxygen.
Nobody needs that. All right, let's go to Ron in Richmond. Ron, what's up?
Hey, guys, I wouldn't do that. I mean, we talked about, I think, a couple weeks ago about mortgage in the future, and that's what you're doing when you do that because you're getting older. And a more comparable trade to me would be Deron Payne because he's a little older.
Of course.
And,
I'd love to do that for Payne. I would do that for Payne in 2 seconds.
I mean, Payne and then the other draft picks. I mean, but here's my other point. Washington, I love them to death, but they're not that close to be giving up stuff like that for one guy. I mean, I need a little more history.
Yeah.
I need a little more history and a little more winning before I start doing that. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but is Amos not wearing Lattimore's number?
I haven't figured out what number he's wearing. I don't know that.
Well, Amos is wearing 20. Amos is wearing 23.
Well, until Lattimore shows up, he's probably free to wear whatever jersey he wants.
So check that. Let me
check that.
Check that. Go ahead.
Yeah, check that. Because I'm
Lattimore's going to wear number 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Commanders.
Oh, okay. I was hoping that was a sign that they were going to get rid of him.
Nah, you don't want to get rid of him just yet.
I'm okay with it.
I know you are, but give him another year.
But that's a whole lot of money to be invested in if he goes back to the kind of player he was. Because he sure wasn't the player last year.
No,
I'm not exactly sure why he's changing, but he's going back to his college number, the number he wore at Ohio State.
Yeah,
number 2.
So Amos will wear 23. Yeah.
All
right. And his butt need to be into minicamp.
Well, he'll be there for mandatory.
Yeah, he'll be there for the mandatory.
Next week.
Thank you, buddy. All right, let's go to Dennis in Reston. Dennis, what's up, man? You're with the Junks.
Good morning, guys. I'm really getting kind of tired of hearing about the Hendrickson. It's been going on forever and a day now. I think it's an okay trade as long as they got somebody that can do, a pretty good job where Newton would be. It would be really nice to have Hendrickson, but as I said, they've been talking about it forever. It's just a joke what's going on out in Cincinnati with this guy. But I'm going to go back to something that we haven't talked about yet this morning, and really what's really concerning me, that started to kind of tweak me even more than what I said last week. We need to get Terry signed. What's going on with these guys? Why are they slacking?
Don't worry. Why are you panicking, Dennis? It will happen. Going to happen in its own due time.
Why are they playing games, though?
They're not playing games. It's just standard negotiating.
Okay.
Standard negotiating.
Well, I hope you guys are right. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are.
We're always right, Dennis. Yeah. You know this. Come on.
Standard negotiating.
That's why I like you. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
800-636-1067 is the number if you want to weigh in on the hypothetical trade that was proposed by Seth Walder yesterday that would land the Commanders Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals. 800-636-1067. We'll continue to take your calls on an open line Thursday.